Welcome all. Today we are going to learn Indian Renaissance, that is socio-religious reform movements during 19th century. This is a very important topic. Why I have selected this topic for this prep series I'll be discussing it later on. But before that, in the next 40-50 odd minutes, what I'm going to do in this session, I'll be explaining to you right away. In the first part of this session, I'll be explaining what is meant by Renaissance. The second part would be, rather it will cover the causes and the background which led to the rise of socio-religious movement, why the need arose in the minds of intellectuals of 19th century India to come up with reform movements. And the third segment of this session would analyze the impact, and at the end of the session, we will be discussing a couple of questions pertaining to this particular topic which has been asked in the last couple of years. Okay, so let's get started. First, I would like to focus your attention on certain dates. These are the epochal dates. 1757 that you have to picturize in the mind. 1757, 1789, 1857. You all know, which is very important, and I'll explain why I have written this. 1885, the formation of Indian National Congress. 1905, this is Partition of Bengal, Young Bengal Partition of Bengal, and the resultant movement, that is the anti-partition movement, Swadeshi movement, passive resistance, etc., etc., and then followed by the arrival of M.K. Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, with the mass participation. I'll explain now. The first part, what is Indian Renaissance? Indian Renaissance literally means rebirth. Rebirth, that is, and reawakening. Rebirth and reawakening. Rebirth is what? In Hindi, it is called Punarjagran. Again, see you are awakened from the slumber. Why? This, I would like you to just open your faculty of mind and try to imagine the condition, the social condition, the political condition, the religious condition of 18th century India first. That is why I have listed 1757 as the watershed event of Indian history. Why is this watershed? 1757, with 17, we see Battle of Plassey and Battle of Buxar in 1764. The Britishers started to spread the tentacles of their rule. Everyone knows that. With that, we have introduction of modern education. The Britishers came to India with the introduction of language, English language, number one. From 1757 to 1789, I'll again come to that part. Why I have written this 1789? Because of the French Revolution. French Revolution, it impacted the whole world of that time, because this French Revolution came up with three basic concepts of liberty, fraternity, equality. These are the modern principles, modern ideas. Before that, because once again you have to go back to 17th century, because this was the time when the great Mughal empire was falling, and thereby, you know, still the society was feudal, economic features were along the same line. So, Britishers were arriving, rather spreading their tentacles of rules through Battle of Palasi and Battle of Buxar. You know, from this time onwards, they started consolidating the Indian conquest. With their conquest, I already told you, they came up with modern ideas. Along with that, Christian missionaries came. Right now, I am discussing the first part, what led to what was the condition and the milieu, the background of 18th century India that led to the reformers with the reform movements. From 1757 to 89, this is the time of French Revolution. French Revolution French Revolution impacted the rising middle class across the globe, even in Europe and in India, because the Britishers were here. So they came with the idea of the modern idea of liberty, fraternity, and equality. So this, in a sense, consolidated the approach of the budding or the nascent educated middle class in India to come up with ideas which could fight the social and religious evils and distortions that have taken place from the past because of the fall of the feudal era. So this particular these things, the liberty, fraternity, equality, and such modern ideas, along with Christian missionary, they also came up with their ideas of how to spread Christianity. So the Hinduism as a religion had to respond to the new challenges imposed by Christianity. Earlier it was Islam that really challenged, and Hinduism responded to those challenges. So this is the new challenge. The Christian missionary, they had to come up with a response. So the society, so this particular time period from 1757 till 1800 almost, that is, we are in the cusp of getting into 19th century. See, the Indian society, when it did has in the realm of society, social, religious, in the realm of society and in the realm of religion, we had tremendous pressure in the form of what? Society during 18th century, Indian society, particularly Hindu and Muslim both, they were plagued with lot of evils. Evils what? Evils like casteist society, rigidity, untouchability, women, condition of women pathetic, education almost no. So women education, child marriage, infanticide, child infanticide as well, discouragement of widow remarriage. Sati was the custom which was so inhuman that a woman used to be a widowed woman used to be burnt along with their husband on the pyre. So I mean, these were the evils, such a ritualistic. Yeah, in religion we have priest or Brahmin domination, ritualistic status, ritualistic status of the caste ridden society. Lot of elements, social elements, religious elements plagued the 18th century India. So these were the factors, along with the modern education here, with the British consolidation of power, unification of India. One more consideration we all need to take into account was in the realm of polity, unification. See, the current geographical expression from north to south and from east to west, from Bengal to Gujarat to Kashmir to Kanyakumari, if we talk, there's the first time with the modern introduction of modern education, English, new ideas, etc., and with the British consolidation, the power of British colonial India, they came up with what? They came up with communication, post and telegraph, railways, etc. They played a role of kind of a bless in disguise. They unified the country, so they unified the mindset, they unified the identity of India, national identity. It created the national identity. National, I mean, because of these factors and the background, it created a class of middle class, a class of English educated individuals, along with, in general, creating the national sentiment, national character. So the geographical expression of present day India was to some extent mooted during this time. See, because of these factors, they did not, the Britishers did not have all that Catholic ideas that they are going to modern the Indian people or civilize the Indian people or create the national identity among the individual Indian residents here, but it was a bless in disguise. So here, this if you come up, if you just visualize the development till 1800, you can see there was a thriving middle class English educated Indians, and the situation in society and in Hinduism was such that encouraged, rather stimulated those reformers to come up with their idea of society and religion. So here, before discussing the reformers and various reform movements briefly, I would like to come to 1857. Now, yeah, till 1857, till the war broke out, that is the first war of independence, this 1857. Till this time, from 1757 to 1857, this 100 years, it created the condition, it germinated a lot of new ideas amongst the masses. Because of all these socio-religious, political condition, along with entry of new elements, what happened? It created the condition in India for the identification British rule, identification of a common enemy. So the condition in this 100 years were made such that the masses, but by and large, came to identify Britishers, the English people, as foreigners, as the ruler, the alien ruler, and the frustration and the anger against these rulers because of these conditions, because of the background preceding 100 years. This first war of independence, the 1857 revolt, happened. So, for analyzing the impact of socio-religious movement, you have to keep that in mind. That is why I have come up with this rope, and this is a trick. I mean, for any to study and appreciate any part of history, human history, be it modern history, world history, ancient, medieval. Always, you need to always remember one technique. I am giving you a mantra. That mantra is C and C. No annals of history, no strands or no time, no period, no event can be studied and taught or appreciated, could be appreciated without this formula. If you do that, see, C means continuity, and N is and this C is change. We cannot read or learn any annals, any part, any aspect of history unless we use this formula. We cannot read, learn things in isolation. Any event, even 1857 revolt, you cannot attempt that question in the real-time exam in mains unless you have this formula in mind. Because reading with continuity, see what? With this watershed event, you have things continued from earlier period, from 1757 to this 1800 to 1857. Suddenly, see, society is always dynamic. It is not static. This is a universal phenomena. So, elements of continuous strands, continuous phenomena, the features, it continues down the ages. Along with, you have to appreciate and take out the message of change. So, change creep in. So, that is why So, because of this condition, you see certain phenomena continued. What changed? Change was the unification. Change was creation of national identity and British as a common enemy. So once you isolate an enemy, the reaction against that enemy is assured. So that is why this 1857 was the first reaction against this British rule. Now coming back to socio-religious reform movements, impact. So impact, one of the impact was 57 revolt. How? Because we see the revolt happening across the length and breadth of North India, with participation of almost all sections of society for the first time. So this is change. Earlier, the mass participation against any foreign or alien rule did not happen. Again, impact number 2. this will help you in attempting answers even in prelims as well as in mains, right? So 1857 to 1885. Why this event is a watershed event or great epoch? Watershed events are those events which have far-reaching impact in the in centuries to come or times to come. So 1885 INC, formation of Indian National Congress. Needless to say how important it was. Of course, this Indian National Congress was the idea of an English ICS officer, A.O. Hume, just to give a vent to the anger, frustration of Indian middle class as well as large section of masses, to, so that it could act as a bulwark. That is why this National Congress, a platform was created by the Britishers, to that aim. Far-reaching concept. So the moderates initially they dominated the Congress, and then this will come later on. Certain developments. Now, other watershed event was 1905. This is we are discussing. We are discussing the impact of socio-religious reform movements. I'll come to the reforms and the reformers. That is also important, but that is much more important. If you enlist the reformers and their institutions, etc., are much more important pertaining to the short answer and the prelim questions. 1905. This is here. Bengal was partitioned. Partition of Bengal. Again, why Lord Curzon that time, he came up with the idea of partitioning Bengal, because you see the initial seat of power was Bengal. The Britishers consolidated their power in Bengal. So Bengal province, or rather presidency, was such a mammoth and huge territorial area. So that was the pretext cited by the Britishers, that this vast landmass, we cannot administer it properly, so that we are dividing it into different parts. The 1905 Bengal consisted of present day Bihar, present day West Bengal, Bangladesh, to some extent Assam and Orissa. Now you can imagine such a huge landmass had to be administered, and what the Englishers thought, it was the aftermath of 1857 that to avoid such kind of revolt, open militant and the armed revolt by Indians, it was divided into Hindu majority and Muslim majority provinces in two parts. So what the Bengalis said then? Bengalis erupted in movement. They said no, this was to divide and rule. Britishers were deliberately, they designed to divide Indians along religious lines to carry forward their own divisive formula of misrule and governance. That is why post this division came Swadeshi movement. Swadeshi movement what? Meaning you have to shun, reject the foreign clothes, foreign items, encouragement of using the desi goods that is produced in India, etc., and a new concept of passive resistance. New concept, this partition of Bengal has, in the movement against the Britishers, against the British rule, those nationalists, particularly Aurobindo Ghosh from Bengal, he came up with a unique idea of passive resistance. Passive resistance. This passive resistance against whom? Against the Britishers, so that they could be discouraged, or rather they should review their decision. So a hell lot of burning of foreign items were organized, and again some revolutionaries also erupted along, and you see the end of the moderate phase. That this is not the scope in our study right now, but we'll discuss it later on. Again, further impact of this socio-religious movement, and those conditions, the socio-religious and political condition, the change in those conditions led to, see, this is the carry forward, again this continuity and change. Some of the elements continued and new elements came, so it makes continuity and change, and that becomes a whole analysis and appreciation of a particular period of history. So now Gandhi, with the advent of Gandhi, again you see the corollary, the culmination or ultimate corollary of mass movement, awakening, revising the views, modern ideas, berifting the society with, rather getting rid of evils like all those conditions of pathetic condition of women, rigidity of caste, untouchability, sati, female infanticide, widow burning, widow remarriages, etc. So these, how it became culmination. See, it continued till Gandhi arrived, and Gandhi in his first experiment, in 1917, he went to Champaran to launch the Indigo Champaran Satyagraha. You see, from where we started our journey from 1757 and till 1917, we see the element of continuity, how dynamic society is, and certain changes, and those changes, sometimes it is for not for all good reason, but more often, if we analyze this part of history, it was change for better. So new elements came, and that really changed a lot of template of national movement. Again, now coming back to the third aspect of reform movements and reformers. We'll touch briefly we'll touch briefly about the reformers, social-religious reformers, the leaders and their institutions, underscore some of the most important reformers, etc. So since Bengal was the seat of power, the first time Bengal became educated with the English medium of education, they were the first to encounter with modern ideas of French Revolution, liberty, equality, justice, etc. So here Bengal, we have now Renaissance. Now again we have Ram Mohan Roy, Raja Ram Mohan Roy. He is called the father of Indian Renaissance. He's called the father of Indian Renaissance, father of modern India. Why? Because this was the man who was so Catholic, so broad minded, modern educated individual. He, first of all, see, he was such a great scholar. Not only he was a great scholar, he was a linguist. He knew almost dozens of language, including Bengali, English, French, etc., etc. And he believed in, certainly, I mean, he believed in reforming society and religion, Indian religion, particularly Hinduism. Before starting on the reformers and the reform movements, we should focus on certain things. So, what was the common element of reforms and reformers across India, be it in Bengal, Maharashtra, Gujarat, North India, even among the Islamic scholars, even among the Muslims, and so on and so forth. Common element was universalism. Rationalism, universalism, rationalism, that is logic, and unity of Godhead. Along these principles, all reformers almost had their views merged. Why? Because I already discussed that Indian social sector, social sphere was plagued with so many evils of like sati pratha, widow, the pathetic condition of widows, no education among women, child marriage, female infanticide, etc., etc. In religious sphere, our Hindu culture, Hindu religion was, plagued with animism, sacrifice, mindless rituals, domination of Brahmins and the priestly class, etc., etc., whatnot. I mean, we can discuss it on and on. Briefly, basically, what we need to do is to see what reformers thought to get rid of Hinduism and the Hindu society of these certain ailments plaguing the society of the time. So they converged on the view that logic or the scientific temper of the Vedic time that has to be encouraged. Caste has to be shunned completely. It has to be discouraged. Untouchability, the sati, these worst customs like sati, inhuman, that was to be abolished, etc., etc. Now, that was the conversion of views of all the reformers. And unity of Godhead was one of the most important things, because the polytheism, a lot of 33 crore, 33 crore Devi Devta were the so-called in Indian mythology, that has to be discouraged, because all these, why it was important, all these were the backward elements, impeded the growth and development of Indian society and forward thinking. Just to have that, just to inculcate those new and modern ideas, they converged, all reformers converged on universalism, rationalism, and unity of Godhead. Indian Renaissance, mind you, you must distinguish between the European Renaissance, from where the leaf, we have taken the leaf out of there, European Renaissance of 13th century,